Here are the learning objectives for CBT number 5. Documenting medications with associated lab values, documenting medications that require current vital signs, documenting medications that require a co-signature or witness, documenting PRN medication with range orders, multiple forms available, documenting a medication that was not scanned, documenting a medication that was held because patient is not on the unit, a manual barcode, documenting a primary IV, documenting TPN, and the 50-50 rule documenting the first dose. Documenting a medication with an attached lab value. The EMAR assists the nurse to identify lab values that determine if a medication is therapeutic and should be administered or not. Medications that attach to a lab value are potassium, magnesium, calcium, Lovenox, Coumadin, Epigen, Dilantin, Depakote, and Digoxin. A pop-up with the two most recent lab values will appear. If it is normal or within therapeutic range, the medication can be given as planned. If the value exceeds the normal range, a pop-up will appear that asks the nurse if she wants to continue. The nurse should click OK. If the nurse decides not to give the medication due to the lab value, she must make the correction on the EMAR. The nurse must click on the time, the lab value will reappear, click Enter, then the documentation box will pop up and the document not given, and provide a reason why. The text box is also available, which allows the nurse to document the rationale to give or not give the med. Medications that require vital sign documentation. Some medications require that most current vital signs be documented before determining if a medication should be administered. The nurse must be cautious to review the physician for vital sign parameters as each patient order is individualized. Scan your patient, then scan your medication. A pop-up administration query prompts the nurse to document the required information. Click Enter to document the vital sign entry. This data is for EMAR documentation only and does not flow back into process interventions. Medications that require a witness co-signature. The nurse will be alerted to medications that require a co-signature from a witness by the double pencil icon. The nurse scans the patient, scans the medication, reviews, and clicks Submit. The session summary will appear and the witness will confirm the right medication and dosage are accurate. Click on Save and Recompile, which will prompt the witness to sign their electronic signature. Once entered, the screen will return to the EMAR. Insulin. For the administering nurse, you must verify your dose instructions prior to administering any insulin so that the prescribed sliding scale can be viewed. Scan your patient, then scan your medication. A query will pop up to prompt the nurse to enter the patient's blood sugar. Then a box appears that requires the nurse to enter the number of units of insulin that are to be administered. The documentation box will appear and the nurse can now enter the site from the drop-down menu. Click Document. It is vital to patient safety that the insulin is not administered until verified by the witness. The nurse has a choice to continue to process other medications or to submit to finalize the insulin transaction. The medication is now prepared and ready for the witness to review. The witness. The witness clicks Edit. The patient's blood sugar is displayed and verified. Select Enter, then the documentation box will appear. The witness must click on the information bubble so that the dose instructions can be viewed and to verify that the prepared dosage is correct. The witness is comparing the blood sugar to the order and the order to the prepared medication. Click OK to exit the dose instructions screen and then click Document. Save and recompile, and the witness is prompted to enter their electronic password. Documenting a range order. When two dosage forms are possible, the EMAR will prompt the user by the message "See dose instructions," and clicking on this comment displays the various forms of the drugs that are available to the nurse. For example, a dilaudid order for 1 to 2 mg PRN pain allows the nurse to select either a 1 mg syringe or a 2 mg syringe based on the pain scale. Scan the syringe you have selected. An administration query will pop up that prompts you to enter the pain scale of the patient. The multiple dosage screen will appear and displays the multiple forms of the drug that are available, the quantity that was scanned, and the total dosage to be administered. If the vial strength you have chosen is not available, the EMAR will allow you to scan the available vial and adjust the correct dosage in the admin dose box. The cursor must be in the barcode scan field if you are scanning an additional syringe for accurate dosage entry. If you scan an excessive amount of the drug, an error message will pop up that states, "Dose scanned is not in the ordered range." The nurse will have to start over. Documenting a medication that was not scanned. Scan your patient. Click on the medication column and then to the Document tab at the bottom. The document box will appear. Select either a non-scheduled med, which is a PRN medication, or a scheduled med. If scheduled, a drop-down menu requires that the nurse select the time that they are documenting. Next, select Given and use the drop-down menu to provide the reason why you did not scan your medication. The only acceptable reason for not scanning is that the medication barcode does not scan. Clicking on the text box allows the nurse to type in more information if necessary. Click on Document. Another error message pops up to confirm that you did not scan the medication and asks to scan now. If you select No, it will be filed as not scanned. If you select Yes, you start over and attempt to rescan. It is important to notify the pharmacy with any medication barcode issues. Documenting a medication when the patient is off the unit. If you are unable to give a medication because the patient is off the unit, the policy states that withheld medications will be documented at the end of the shift. If the patient has not returned by the end of your shift, or the medication will not be given, the nurse must document the medication as not given. To be able to do this without scanning your patient's armband, the nurse will click on the Other tab and click Manual Barcode. A manual barcode entry box will appear, which requires the nurse to enter the patient's account number. The nurse is given the opportunity to check all the medications not administered in the first column and select the Document tab. Or if only selected one med, then click on the selected time and the document box appears. Provide the reason for not administering the medication from the drop-down menu. A secondary message will appear that will clarify that the medication was not scanned. Click OK and your documentation will be entered. Documenting a primary IV. When scanning a primary IV bag, it is important to recognize that at times, two barcodes are present. Scan the smallest barcode. IV fluid times have been calculated by the pharmacy according to the prescribed rates. They are not entirely accurate and should be regarded as flexible. An error message that states that it is too early or too late is to be anticipated. Continue on with your documentation. Documenting TPN. TPN requires that the nurse confirms the bag additives with the order. This is best done by clicking the bottom line with the ellipsis. This provides the nurse with the best view of the order. Once the bag contents have been verified, the nurse scans the label. A pop-up query asks for the TPN bag number that is located on the TPN label to be entered. Document the number and click Enter. The 50% rule. When administering a first dose medication and determining what standardized time you should select to document, the 50% rule applies. It is calculated by determining the halfway mark between the two scheduled times and then documenting according to the time that it is closest to. For example, if the drug is scheduled every 8 hours, the halfway mark between 1400 and 2200 would be 1800. 50% of 8 hours is 4 hours. The midway point is 1800. Your drug arrives at 1600. 1600 falls within the first half of the range between 1400 and 1800, and so the dose will be documented in the 1400 time slot. All subsequent doses will be given at the scheduled times. Scan the medication. An error will warn that it is either too late or too early. Verify that the correct time is scheduled according to the 50% rule and select Document. The actual time of administration will be documented on the EMAR, and all future scheduled times will remain intact according to the standardized schedule.